on this great Sunday, ready for another wonderful pick-me-up as Spirit will speak to us, wherever Spirit needs to speak to us. And it will be good and very good if we're open and receptive to it. So moving right along in our journey through this thing called you, believe it or not, we're on the 7th and 8th chapter already. Are you enjoying the reading of the book? Yes. Well, 10 of us are. That's beautiful. I'm loving that. I'm loving it. There's hope for the rest of us. You know, we still have copies. Actually, it's a book for all seasons and it's a book for a lifetime. It's one I keep coming back to because it has fabulous little prayer treatments, very succinct prayer treatments in it, and it just says it like it is, as well as very easy reading. So we're looking at God's will today, and in that chapter 7, Ernest Holmes says that God's will for you is the flowing of boundless life through you. God's will for you is joy, happiness, peace, success, and abundance. God's will for you is the kingdom of heaven on earth now. But he does say that although the kingdom of heaven is on earth for each and every one of us now, most of us see it in a distorted way. And therein lies our challenge. And where does that distortion come from? The distortion comes from your freedom and my freedom to choose in consciousness how to think, what to think, how to feel, how to do. That's where the distortion comes from. Ernest Holmes says that a God who is all good, all perfect, all love, all of the good that you can possibly think of, could no more think up a hell, a devil, and future punishment than any good parent could. It's impossible. So where did it all come from? Where did hell and the devil and future punishment come from? It doesn't come from God's will for us, because God's will for us is boundless life flowing through us. God's will for us is that we may have life and have it in abundance, and that our joy may be complete. God's will for us is that we would inherit and take and accept our inheritance for all of the gifts of the kingdom. All, not a few, but all of the gifts of the kingdom. That's God's will. So where does all this other stuff come from? It doesn't come from the divine design of Spirit for each and every one of us. It comes as a result of the law of cause and effect. Hell, devil, future punishment is a human construct, a human response to the world and what goes on in it. And that flows out of our distorted view of life, and how life is, and how life works, and how we are in relationship with the source and the creator of our being. That's where the distortion comes from. Out of the law of cause and effect, which says, as you think, so you are. As you believe, so you are. As you expect, so you experience. And it puts the responsibility of the kind of lives we're living straight and squarely on our own shoulders. You and I are free to choose to think whatever we wish to think, to feel whatever we wish to feel, and do whatever we wish to do. Because you and I have an individual use of consciousness. There's no such thing as an individual mind or individual consciousness. What we have is an individual way of using the one universal mind, the one universal consciousness. And how we use it depends on what comes into our lives as experience, and the way we use it is to think into it and to feel into it, and that's how we use it. So if I am spilling all kind of billage into it, that's what I'm going to get back. If I'm spilling in all kinds of good thoughts and feelings into it, that's what I'm going to get back. The measure I give is the measure I get. That's the law of cause and effect. It's immediate. It's not future punishment. It's immediate. Whatever that is, it's immediate. Now, the build-up of that may come at a later date and time, or not. But there is no hell, no devil, and no future punishment unless I construct all of that. If that's what I want to experience, I will experience it, because imagination is a very powerful thing. Thinking is a very powerful thing. So let's clear that up once and for all. I am in command of my own fate. I am the master of my own soul. And what I do in my consciousness depends on how I'm living and what I'm experiencing. Again, saying it over and over and over again. There is nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. Aided and abetted by feeling. Nothing good nor bad, but thinking and feeling make all of that so. So, where does that leave us? That leaves us with us looking to, understanding once and for all, that the will of God is always for good and good alone and nothing else. The will of God, when you understand it, you begin to realize the words that say, the eye has not seen and the ear has not heard the good things God has prepared for those who recognize God, identify with God, and love God back. There's no end to the good that you and I can realize when this is so. But we have to recognize, identify, and be in a relationship that is a reciprocal relationship. There must be reciprocity there. All the good in the world is available to you, and it's available to me, and it's available now. But you and I have to appropriate it. We have to embody it if we want to experience it. And the only way we can embody that good is to know who we are, what we are, and whose we are, and be so happy and glad and rejoicing about that we're giddy with delight. And out of the giddiness in delight, you get that yummy sense of a close intimacy with your source. And you can absolutely believe in it, absolutely trust in it, and absolutely have faith in the goodness of it and its divine design for you and for me to flourish and to thrive. But you're not going to have that if you don't have a close relationship with it, because it's difficult to believe in, have faith in, and trust in what you don't know. Or you know a little itsy-bitsy of. That's why you and I, it always comes back to a deep, close, intimate relationship with our source. And if we're all the time looking for our source or at our source outside of ourselves, it's just not going to happen. It's right here, the center core of our being, as we are told. Within us, there's an inexhaustible spring of life that you and I can dip into anytime we want and be refreshed by anytime we want. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will refresh you. Say the words. They're heavy with meaning. Scripture tells us that we are heavy with the blessing of God. Heavy, laden down with the blessing of God, which is the blessing of good. And you and I will not know the one true God, the one true power, the one true infinite life, while we're all the time ignoring it or negating it. Ignoring God or negating God. Well, how do I go about negating God? I negate God every time my belief in my ailments, in my conditions, in my situations, in my sad, sore, sorry self is greater than my belief in the goodness and the givingness of God to help me alleviate myself from all of those. I negate God every time, as I was saying this morning. I'm open and receptive to some good. It's good for me, and I know it's good for everybody else too. It does no harm. It's a good thing. And when I'm open to it and I'm praying in that awareness, and it's not happening, and it passes the length of time I think is enough time for it to happen, and I get to the point where I say, oh, well, it's obviously not God's will for me. It wasn't meant to be. It's just not God's will. That's the greatest load of baloney. I love the word baloney because I get to use it a lot in this sanctuary. Because we believe in so much baloney, it's not funny. It really is not funny. That is baloney. God's will for me is that I should flourish, that I should thrive, that my joy be complete, and I enjoy and live an abundant, boundless life. That's the only will of God for me. There is no other will. Now, whatever other will is out there, it's not God's. It's not God's. The challenge is that my own will for myself sometimes cancels out God's will for me, because I am a sovereign in my own life. I am a sovereign being in my own life, and I get to choose the experiences. I get to choose what happens to me in my life through the way I'm thinking and through the way I'm feeling. If I'm into negation a lot, negation is going to be my experience. If I'm into affirmation a lot, affirmation is going to be my experience. As I think it, so it is. It is done unto me as I believe. As a man is in his heart, so he is in life and living. And heart is consciousness, deep, deep consciousness. Now, Ernest Holmes says, picture this. Picture a beautiful scene, a fantastic scene, a gorgeous scene, a lovely scene. It's the most incredible, amazing, absorbing thing you might imagine. Everything wonderful is there, and it's unified. Beautiful nature, creation at its best. Beautiful, gorgeous mountains, hills, and dales, and meadows full of flowers, and birds singing, and blue skies, and little wispy clouds in the sky, and anything you might imagine that would sing to your soul and invite you in. It's a kind of a three-dimensional picture. You could just walk into it, and you're totally absorbed in it, and nothing is going on except this beautiful feeling you're having because of all this wonderful, beautiful, unified, gorgeous, magnificent beauty you are experiencing. You are experiencing. And then all of a sudden, a big piece of distorted glass is put between you and the picture. And now you're kind of going like this, well, yeah, it's there, but it's not the same feeling, and your focus is on the glass then. Your focus is on the distortion, and your focus is on, well, where did that come from, and how can I get around that? Well, how can I disappear it? How can it go away? Now your focus is simply on the distortion and not on the beauty and grace behind it. And the distortion is that river of deep consciousness that flows through you and through me that we're not even aware of, the subjective mind. Because within that is every thought you've ever thought, every feeling you've ever entertained, and every memory you've ever created. And not only your individual ones, but all of race conscious mind too. So this river of consciousness is flowing through you, and it's full of debris. The debris of all of the mistakes I have made, all of the decisions that weren't in my best interest that I made, and so on, and as well as race-conscious mind as well. So every single day of our lives, you and I could be stating that the consciousness that lives within us, the deep-rooted consciousness of subjective mind, is free and clear of any erroneous thought, feeling, or memory. We need to treat our subconscious mind every day to be free of every erroneous thought, feeling, and memory, so that we can clear out all the debris, so that what's flowing through us is crystal clear and the waters of living life. And that's the distortion. And when we're caught up in the distortion, there's no way we are going to experience the full goodness that is available to us. And there's no way we're going to enter into the wonderful grace of spirit. No way can we move into that sovereignty that is ours, and no way can we flourish and thrive to the degree that we're capable of flourishing and thriving. How do we change it up? How do we change it up? Ernest Holmes in these writings says that all we have to do is rearrange the thinking in our minds, because when we rearrange the thinking in our minds, we rearrange our lives. And he says if we could rearrange the thinking in our minds, fully, then instantly our lives would be rearranged. How do we go about that? He says through mental statements and through affirmations. Now he says the magic is not in the affirmations. All the affirmations do is keep us singularly focused on the good that we desire and not on the problems. Because all the time you and I are worrying and fretting and straining and struggling and forcing and efforting and being anxious and living in that sense of angst and clenchedness, because that's the way you feel when you're angst. You're clenched. You're clenched. And when you're clenched in mind and in emotion, your body is clenched. Everything's clenched. And it's not an easy way to live, clenched. You know? I mean, when you are clenched like this, you can't receive anything. Your hands are not open to receive. You're clenched. You can't. It's washing over you, you know? It's like holding a pitcher upside down under the tap. The water's not going into the pitcher because you haven't got it up the right way. So the whole idea is to take our minds off our problem and put our minds on God, which is our good. In other words, to the degree that you can stop worrying, to the degree that you can stop being in fear, to the degree that you can stop being so angst and focus on the good you want, to that degree are you going to rearrange your thinking, your feeling, and your life to that degree. And so what we are invited to do is what we're capable of doing, truly. When our faith in the good that we desire is stronger than our faith in the lack of whatever it is we haven't got, then we get our demonstration, Ernest Holmes says. We have to have more faith in the good we desire than in the conditions we're in. Now, we are not going to experience health if we're all the time thinking in terms of sickness and feeling in terms of sickness. We are not going to experience abundance when we're all the time thinking about lack and shortage and limitation. Cannot happen. We are not going to experience peace when we're all the time allowing ourselves to be so angst. We're not going to experience joy when we're all the time focused on that which makes us unhappy. It goes without reason to say that that makes sense, and yet it's what we do all the time. All the time, some of the time. That's what we're doing, and if we're doing it more than 51%, then we're in trouble. So your life is your thoughts lived out. Your life are your feelings lived out. You can look at your life and you can know what you were feeling and what you were thinking for most of your life, because there it is in all of your experiences. So if you're going to change your life, we must change our thinking and the way we feel about life. It's the only way we can do it. We must stop negating our good, negating our creator, negating the provider of our good, the sustainer of our good, the maintainer of our good, the giver of all of our good. We must stop negating, and the way we stop negating is to stop doubting. Is to have faith in, is to trust the creative process of Spirit and Spirit's generosity and givingness, eternal givingness, always pouring God's self out. That's what God is always doing, giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. There's no other way to be. But again, when I say that we have to appropriate our good, embody our good, that really means, and here's the kicker, that you can only embody what you have given. You can only take what you have given. You can only receive what you have given, because your spiritual bank works the very same way as your regular bank. You can only draw from it what you have put into it. So if you're one of those people that sits on your good, sits on your love, sits on your generosity, sits on all those wonderful, amazing, beautiful attributes that are yours, sits on whatever it is that you're withholding, you're not going to be able to bring that into yourself. If you withhold it, it cannot be received. You have to give it before you receive it. You must give it before you receive it. Expect it and experience it. Believe it and receive it. Give it and it will come back to you. Say yes to it. Come into agreement with it. Give thanks for it, and it's yours. That's the way it works. That's the only way it works. We are so wealthy. We have so much to give, and yet we withhold so much. And every single one of us in this room withholds something or another. As I said this morning, I've yet to meet somebody who hasn't withheld in some way or isn't withholding in some way. I would love to meet that person. I would be honored to meet that person. I would embrace that person. And as I was saying this morning, I hope the first person I meet of this capability is myself. Because once I meet myself in this way, I will meet everybody else and it'll be the same thing. I will be beholding people who are not withholders, but the distributors of the great, great abundance that has been given to them. We are rich, heavy in blessings, Scripture says. What are we doing about that? Are we showing up as a blessing everywhere we are? Are we blessing everything and everyone wherever we are? Are we all the time blessing and blessing and blessing and blessing? Because blessing brings praise. Are we praising and praising and praising and praising? When you bless and praise and bless and praise and bless and praise, you bless and praise your source all the time. And when you bless and praise your source, you fall in love with your source. You fall in love with what you bless and praise. And you create this wonderful, intimate relationship with your source. And you know, I don't have to worry. It's taken care of. I know it sounds terrible. It sounds bad. The news is not good. But you know what? It's taken care of. We have to stop negating ourselves. We're doing it all the time, listening on people's conversation. Oh, this poor knee, or this gammy knee, it's really an irritant. You know, if there's something going on with my knee, the way to approach my knee is, this knee of mine is an amazing thing. It has an incredible intelligence within it. It knows exactly how to mend and fix and heal itself because that's how intelligent it is. All I have to do is support it in its healing process. And the way I support it is by knowing and believing in its intelligence and know that there's something greater than me and than it taking place that's going on in the activity that's taking place in this knee. This knee is a great knee, it's a good knee, it's the best knee, it's an intelligent knee, and I'm getting out of its way now and letting it do its thing. That's the way we affirm and not negate. Whether it's your knee, your finger, your elbow, your hip, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Whether it's a spiritual thing, a mental thing, or a physical thing, it doesn't matter. You affirm, you affirm, you affirm, you affirm the truth that there's an intelligence in me beyond anything I could understand or imagine. There's an intelligence flowing through me at the center core of my being that I can draw from, get out of its way, and let it do its thing for releasing from me what I need to release, bringing to me what I need to bring to me, healing within me what I need to heal within me, healing around me what I need to heal around me. It can do it, it can do it, it can do it. If I know it can, if I feel it can, if I believe it can, if I say it can, if I think it can, then it does. That's the way the creative process works. You can work the creative process along these lines, or you can go according to chance and allow the law of cause and effect to roll the dice and bring you wherever it brings you. What do you want to do? Do you want to take control of your life? Do you want to be the master of your fate? Do you want to be the captain of your soul? Or are you going to keep drifting and see what happens and leave it up to chance? Whatever will be. Que sera, sera. It's not a song I like. I used to like it as a kid when I didn't understand it. But now that I understand it, it has no place in my consciousness, and it ought to have no place in yours. So this week, my dear ones, it's all about sovereignty, taking control, taking charge, and knowing that God's will for you is great and good and grand and glorious, and you can trust it. It's the only thing you can trust and rely upon. Know that God is in you, with you, and moving through you and as you. Know that God is on your side. Know that God supports you, and know that God wants your highest and best good. And that's the truth, and so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at redondocsl.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.